Welcome to A Lunch with Biggie, a podcast about small business and creatives sharing their stories and inspiring you. My guest today may sound a little familiar. She's been on the podcast before selling the same amazing product, Nature's Skincare Secret Goat Milk Soap and Skincare. Please welcome my friend and the owner of Goat Solution Skincare, Stefanie Bush. What's going on, Stefanie?
Hey, I'm ripping my deli fresh.
I know. I love it. I love it. I always love seeing that. Thank you. I really appreciate you coming back again and being on. I figured enough stuff has changed that it warranted you to be my first, actually be my first guest, my first returning guest, and to talk again. So I appreciate that. We'll ask the question, even though I know the answer, but I want to see if it maybe changed in the last few years. What's your go-to lunch or sandwich?
Oh, it has changed. Okay, so it has changed. So
Okay.
there's two. So for I go in these like tuna phases. Like I go through like I hate tuna and then like, oh, I really want like a tuna melt. So it's kind of on brand too. I didn't do this on purpose. But lately I've been loving like Cuban bread with the tuna.
Uh-huh.
Do like relish and hot sauce and a little mayo with the tuna and Thousand Islands. And then I take goat cheese and I put it on top and I just barely melt it. And then that's like the sandwich I make. But the sandwich that is like my Roman Empire right now, you and I actually went and ate with Kristen and Jake and Bella at the Butcher's Nook, right? Oh my God, did I say that? Yeah.
Yep. The Butcher's Nook. Yep. In Mount Dora.
Oh my gosh, the sandwich that you and I got, chef's kiss. So
Is
that
that the downtown? Is that what it's called?
I can't honestly, I can't remember what it was called, but you know what's funny? I think it also had Thousand Islands on it, and I think that's why.
It did.
Yes, and that's why. Like I'm a sucker. If you put Thousand Islands on anything, I'm gonna eat it. So
Yeah. That's why you're my girl, because that is my go-to salad dressing
you
every time.
me too.
Like some people love ranch. I'm a Thousand Island
No,
guy every time.
every time, and I think everyone else like. Our favorite sandwich at the table was the sandwich that you and I picked. And the reason why we picked it was
Yeah.
Thousand Islands.
It was. That was it. That was it. As a matter of fact, Mario's going to be a future guest on the podcast, so it'll be good to kind of find out a little bit more about how he makes a Thousand Island. Maybe we can make our own in Thousand Island.
Yeah, that's
Um,
what's right now. Well, yeah. So like if I could pick, and it's only 10 minutes from me, so yeah, that's my
you're lucky.
sub.
You're lucky. Hey, that's good, because originally your answer originally, I think it was like Panera and Pub Sub and Chick-fil-A. So definitely some good ones. So I'm not gonna I don't want to like we'll talk a little bit, and I'll just say this. I encourage you to listen to the first conversation that I had with Stefanie. But and then obviously I'm going to ask for kind of like a quick version of why you kind of started, to make goat milk, products 11 years ago. But I will encourage you, listen to the first episode, and then you'll understand when after we're done talking today, why I probably wanted to have her on again, because so much has changed and so much has evolved that I really felt that she needed an opportunity for us to share, for me to be able to share her story a little bit better. And so tell people a little bit about, why you started and what is Goat Solution Skincare. Let people know a little bit about that, and then we'll kind of go more into detail about your evolution and everything like that. But why did the whole process start?
Okay, so if you don't go back to the first one, this is basically your like quick summary. My
Yep.
son, when he was about 9, 10 months old, was hospitalized, and at the time we didn't know what he was hospitalized with. He was completely swollen, rash. His skin was so swollen that it broke apart. It caused blood infections. So basically, to make like a long story short, he was hospitalized for eczema. And at the time, they tested him for cancer. They tested him for rhinovirus. We were in the hospital for a whole month, and they moved me to every single floor for children. And finally, after all these tests were ran, the specialist came back, Dr. Green in Orlando. A blood specialist came back, and he was like, "Mom, your son has severe eczema to the point where it has caused blood infection. The blood infection now has caused organ failure, and your son now needs a couple of, so he ended up getting 4 blood transfusions. So being in there, I took a huge nosedive into what causes eczema, what can help eczema, all of these things. And it was crazy because this was 2013. In 2013, you didn't really hear about like goat milk here in the United States. It's cow's milk, especially 13, what is it? 13, 12, 13 years ago. It was really
Yeah.
not at all. And I remember I came across this website that was like basically in a different language, and I started taking key things in Google Translate, and it led me to an article about goat milk and skin issues. And then that led me to Cleopatra and how she used to take goat milk baths in the Egyptian times back then. And so the farm, I already had a farm, and my crazy self went on to Facebook Marketplace at the time when you could buy animals off of it, farm animals. And I found a woman that was like a few miles away from my farm, and I put 2 goats in milk in the back of my Ford Explorer and I drove them to the farm. But this was like, that's basically what happened in a nutshell. And the reason why that happened was I tried to find goat milk soap. His specialist said the best thing you can use. So like to rewind a little bit, when they were wrapping him in gauze that were soaked in steroids 3 times a day. So by the time his skin finally closed and he had the blood transfusions and everything, his skin was horrible. It was like an alligator pretty much. And had like burn spots on him from the steroids. It was really bad. So when his doctor finally discharged him, he said, "Mom, you need to go and find him goat milk soap." And I looked at him and I was like, where am I going to find this? So starting to like look on Google and Amazon and all those places, I couldn't find it. And the few that I did find it had red 40, which to me, first off, my son's allergic to it. So when we left the hospital, I had like this huge scroll of things that he was now allergic to because they ran so many tests, and not just goat milk skincare, but like Dove, Dial, Irish Springs, everything under the sun had red 40, artificial ingredients, preservatives. And I'm like, why is this stuff in soap? There's no need for it. So then that's when I went ahead and I started looking for, I was like, well, I have the farm. So let's find some goats. This can't be that hard. So this is basically how it started. And it never started to be a business. I literally just bought goats, and I took Nolan and I just put him in a little bath with goat milk. And then I started researching on how to make it. And I ended up probably like 2-3 weeks after the goats came making my first batch of soap. And then when you make soap, it turns into like an addiction. So I started making more and more and changing the recipes, and I ended up with all these bars that I then gifted to others. And like my closest friends and family were coming back to me like, this is changing my skin. What kind of crack did you put in this, basically? So that is how the first round Flying Goat soap was formed.
Um, so I think what was impressive to me, and I find like this interesting, especially, and this is one of the reasons why I wanted to chat with you, because when we spoke the first time, you actually went through your first kind of iteration. So you were originally Flying Goat Soap, like you mentioned. Then you rebranded because you had opportunities in New York to rebrand, and then you became Goat Skincare. And so at that point, I was like, hey, I'm like, you should be on the podcast, this and that. The podcast, airs, and then
A week later.
and then all of a sudden I start getting like texts from you, and I'm like, what? And so I kind of I want you to be able to tell. So okay, so obviously you have like you rebranded your business, started all over again, to rebrand, and then and we have like a podcast episode out. You're about, you have a website, you have the whole thing, and then what happens?
All right. Yes. So Flying Goat Soap was the very first company. And then when I had pop up shops in New York, there was another woman there who, helped me rebrand it to kind of make it of a certain, more of a just not mom and pop farm, but something that would connect more with like the New York upper, Fifth Avenue type look. So it went to Goat Skincare. And literally, I remember telling you in the last podcast, I am never rebranding again.
Yep. Yep.
And so Anthony and I did this podcast, and literally a week later, and I don't know if you know this, but you and Kristen were the very first people that I messaged after this.
I do know that I was getting like almost like play by play, and like she and I would look at each other, and I was like, "What the f is happening?" And then I was like, "What?" And then seeing you have to figure out. So, go ahead, like
Okay.
share a little bit of as much as you want to share, but share this part of it of like what happened or what you experienced.
Okay, so I just want to start off by saying like this is not any way like I really, when Anthony came to me and was like, "Hey, I want to do this over," I wanted to make sure that th- I brought this out in a way where it didn't come off as like angry divorced woman, like man bashing. So this is, and they always say there's three sides to every story, but this is the two sides, okay? So this is my side and the truth. So this is what happened. So my ex-husband and I were, when I did the podcast with you, we were already separated in the process of a divorce. And one of the main things we spoke about was Flying Goat, cuz so Flying Goat always stayed the name, and then Goat Skincare became basically the DBA of Flying Goat. So it's just a little mini company within. And we spoke that we were going to work this together still, even through the divorce. And looking back, I was so naive and stupid, um because there were tons of red flags where I should have been like, no, you're an idiot, Stefanie, like you guys need to dissolve this. So basically what happened was is I had already moved out of the farm, and I was going every day to the farm to do all the orders, print out the orders. Goat skincare was on the farm still. The goats were there. All the equipment, the products that I make, everything. So every morning I would drop my daughter off at school and then come and do all of the orders. And I'll never forget that day I had 27 orders to fill. And I put my key into the door, and I opened the door and walked in. My hands were full, and everything was gone. Everything was gone. And immediately, instead of just panicking, I stood there, and my first thought was, oh, well, maybe he moved it to a bigger location, because we had spoke about getting shipping containers on the farm and building like a mini store for it where people could come and like pick up their stuff, have the goat petting zoo and things like that. And then I turned the corner and all the equipment was gone, to the point where even the boxes for packaging and shipping were also gone. So now I'm starting to like panic, and I'm like, were we robbed? And my ex-husband walks into the room, and I said, "Where's all the stuff? Like, I have orders." And he looked at me dead faced and said, "I put it away for safekeeping." I'm sorry. What? And I said, "Okay, well, safekeeping from who? Like, is there construction going on the farm? What's going on?" And he was like, yeah, well, safekeeping from you. And like, I know it, like looking back at how I handled it, I really know that like God was holding me back, because I probably should have been in jail right now, because I know all sorts. Like, Anthony, you know me, you know the Latina in me, and like looking back at it, I didn't handle it as good as I could, but I handled it better than I think I normally would have, because yeah, I stood there and I said, you can't, I need the stuff back. Like, we have 27 orders that we have to fill. And he said, well, you can print them out and give them to me. I will go ahead and go. So basically what he did was he took everything and put it in our master bedroom closet and changed all the locks. So you couldn't even get into the master closet or anything. It was locked underneath like deadbolt and key. And I mean, everything, the equipment, there was stuff that I had just purchased like literally 3 days ago. All of it was gone. And I said, okay, do you even know? Like, because I know what the soaps are. Anthony, you saw my how I have it. Like, most of my soaps are on the
Yeah.
not labeled, but I know what they are.
Yeah.
Like, all of us who,
Yeah. Because you make them.
yeah, I make them. I know the smells. Like, we have a system, like we know our
Yeah.
system. And this
Yeah.
goes to show too, like how I was the company. But here's the kicker. When I finally looked at him and I said, you can't do this. This is illegal. He looked at me and he said, well, I'll give it back to you, but you need to pay me $5,000 and I'll sell it back to you. And I'm like, you can't sell me a company I already own. And this I know you're probably going to ask me a question like later on down the road, but this was one of the biggest things that changed my life completely. Was he looked at me and said, this is not your company, it's mine. And when Flying Goat had opened, he had went and did all of the business paperwork. So he made everything legal and I didn't know about it. He came back and he surprised me and was like, surprise, like, here's your company, here's the name, here's this is how you do the taxes, this is where you would file it. So me being married and my husband's doing this, I'm naive and trusting. So I'm like, cool, he handled this for me. All these years, so what is it, 7, 8, 9, 10 years later down the road, I'm finding out the carpet was ripped underneath me, everything is gone, and my name is not on a single document that I even exist with this company. Nothing. Nothing.
So now you're confronted. I remember this because I remember getting texts from you, but you're confronted with not having anything. You have to now make new product and everything else. I mean, you technically could have just been like, F it, what am I gonna do?
I did.
But what kind of went I mean, for a little bit, but you kind of, like, knowing you rolled up your sleeves. But like, what went through your mind? Like, what was like that was like, it's got to be like so disheartening when you have something like this that you've already built, and then now it's like, hey, you can't have it, so now you got to redo everything. So like, how difficult was it to start over again, like to have to pretty much start the whole process over again?
Oh my god. So I won't even lie. Like other words were said in the house and where Goats was. And I remember holding myself together, saying what I had to say, getting in the car and leaving. And the first thought in my mind were the 27 customers, and a lot of them were regulars that, what, oh my God, like, what do I tell them? So I went ahead and I printed out the papers and I gave him the invoices and I said, here you go. And I basically, like, to fast forward, I gave him 2 days. And within those 2 days, those orders still weren't touched. And on day 3, he was like, well, I don't know what's what. So you need to come and pack these orders. And these orders never got packed. And I remember reaching out. I finally had to reach out to every single customer. I think it was like third or fourth day. And I'm like, what am I going to say? Like, I can't, like, there's nothing I can say. There's no lie. I have to be truthful with these people. And I contacted every single one of them and told them exactly what happened. And then I told them, go to your bank right now and get a refund. And luckily, every single one of them was able to get a refund. I
Wow.
have access to the bank account now at this point. So the bank account didn't even, like, I had the card, I had the Flying Goat goat card, but everything was changed because literally my name was not legally on anything. So I was just an employee who got fired. So then after that, I walked out of the house. I closed the door, and that was the last time I ever walked back into that house. And I closed the door, and I remember getting into the car, and I drove down to the bottom of the farm at the stop sign, and I completely lost it. Like, I think I had like a Guinness Book World Record ugly cry. Like, there was snot and hyperventilating and mascara, and it was so bad. And I remember picking my phone up through tears and sobbing and texting you and Kristen. And the reason why you were the next person I thought of, like, was because the podcast had launched, and then your podcast listeners had a coupon code. So my
Yeah.
coupon code, I literally was getting like a couple of orders a day with this coupon code. So now I'm panicking because I'm like, Anthony has to stop all coupon
Yeah.
codes. And so there were 5 people I contacted at that stop sign. And it was you and Kristen. And I have to say, I remember like you guys I sent you the picture. Like, guys, I sent Anthony and his wife Kristen the picture of the empty warehouse. And getting ready for this interview, I went back and I found that picture. And I thought, you're over it or whatever, but it still hits and it still hurts to think that like you built something. And let's get something straight. I am going to give credit where credit's due. My ex-husband did put money into Flying Goat, but at the same time, that's like your husband and wife, so you're building something together. So I'm not going to discount that he did not put money from his construction company into it, but at the end of the day, the recipes, the face, the work, everything that went into it was me. That was my baby. That was my company, you know.
Yeah.
Um
So at what point did you just say, F it, I don't know if I want to restart this again?
it was after I had spoken to you guys. I text my best friend. My best friend called me, and she's a ride or die. She's not one of those friends you call to get like level-headed advice from. She's one of the friends you called like to go to war with you. Like she
I
doesn't.
need a pitchfork.
Yeah, she doesn't matter if you're wrong. She's jumping off the cliff with you. So I needed that, and then I in that moment I was like, there's no way I'm rebuilding this again. Like, this was exhausting, and I had just told you a week before, I'm never rebranding again. I told you I was never making another website. I was not rebranding. Like, I would never do it again. And then I even thought about, well, maybe I'll just buy it back from him. And I was like, I don't know if anyone out there like follows astrology or whatever, but I'm a Sagittarius, and we are as petty as they come. And we are very nice people until provoked. And then once like we're provoked, we're like demons. Okay. So like this hadn't sunk in yet. And I remember calling my market manager, which, do I even call him that anymore? So my marketing manager and web developer, he was my next phone call, because now he owns all of the licensing that built the website and stuff. And I had to basically, he was running marketing on Google Ads, he was running marketing on Instagram, Facebook. So I needed to stop those. So I thought by the time I called him, I was calmed down and I could like relay this message, but I wasn't. It was like 2 hours after this happened, and he picked up the phone and he was like, thanks for calling Goats. And I lost it. So he had no idea what was going on, but as a joke, he picked up like if he was my customer service. So he let me hysterically go over what happened. And I remember calmly, he said, are you done? And I was like, excuse me, rude. Did you not just hear what happened to me? And he was like, yeah, I heard. Are you done? And I'm like, I guess. And he was like, okay, so I need you to take today, and I need you to go through all your emotions. I need you to be angry. I need you to be sad, pissed off, do whatever you need to do today. Go cry it out. He goes, but at the end of the day, when you go to lay down, I need you to remember one thing. The only thing taken from you was physical items. He was like, your drive is not taken. Your recipes are in your head. He said, everything that you did to build the company you already had, it's in you. He was like, so when you're done being a hysterical emotional woman, like rude, hello, get back to me, because if you want to do this, we'll have you a website, new marketing, and a new LLC by 48 hours. And I was about to hang up, and he said, "Let me ask you a question though, Stefanie." And I was like, "What?" He was like, "Do you even want to do this anymore?" And I had never been asked that question. And I think there was a certain part that, and I think this happens to a lot of small businesses, especially like when you're in the market industry, like how we do markets outside, and it's really like a one man show. It turns into a passion, and then it goes somewhere along the line, it gets lost into a job. And we may not necessarily love jobs anymore. Like, is that passion still there? Do we still, why are we even doing this anymore? Am I
Yeah.
continue to do this just to be petty and like prove a point? Because I was also told when I left that farmhouse that you might as well go back to dentistry because you can't do this without me. And that also stuck in my head, that I can't do this without you. Bro, these are my recipes. What are you talking about? Like, I'm the face of goats. Hello. So I really had to, I took 24 hours. I did what Jake said. I took 24 hours and I really thought about it. And I was already, it's funny because at in the middle of March, my parents, going through the divorce and stuff, my parents asked me, they're like, "Hey, we want you and the kids to come back to our house. We don't want you to go on your own yet. We kind of want you to settle down here and get your, what is it? Your footing as a single mom again, and not just be thrust
Yeah.
out of the world." And, being in your mid 30s, already having like your farmhouse and your business and going back to live with your parents is like a rude awakening within itself. It was amazing. And I don't think I know for a fact I wouldn't be where I am today without my parents. And Goat Solutions wouldn't be where it is right now without my parents. But I remember after I got off the phone with Jake, I came back to my parents' house, and my dad saw my swollen face, and my dad does not cuss. I think I've heard him cuss once in my entire life. And he said, "What the F has happened?" And I sat down and I told him, and he said, "Okay, well, what are you going to do?" And I said, "I'm going to go to the room and cry myself to sleep. I'll let you know in the morning." So I was like, "I'm going to go have a nervous breakdown and I'll get right back to you, Daddy, okay?" And I did just that. And the next morning, I called Jake and I said, "I'm going to do this." And at that moment, Anthony, I was doing it being pure petty. I was going to prove a point. So instead of taking the $5,000 that I was told I could buy back my company that I didn't even own anymore, that I was basically an employee, I was going to take that $5,000 and build a new company. And, that was all I had. And that sounds like a lot of money, but when you have to buy all the equipment, essential. So what I do is all organic, all natural. I could take the cheap
Yeah.
road and
Yeah.
I can make what I do for pennies, a few dollars, but I don't do that. That's not me. That's not my brand. It's everything's organic, farm fresh. That's not cheap. So to buy everything, the equipment to make it, the essential oils alone were $800 just for 9 or 10 of them.
Yeah.
So this went from having 30 essential oil soaps to
Just
base
starting from scratch again.
scratch. Like we are back to oats and honey and milk and honey bars of soap only. it,
Yeah. Yeah.
it was terrifying. It was absolutely terrifying.
But I mean, and I think the part that I enjoy, or that I love seeing, because it's kind of like that rising phoenix thing. It's like, one is the fact that like you are straight hustle. So like, and that's one of the things that I absolutely love about you. And a lot of it also is the fact that you have to hustle. Like you're the type that goes and does like, "Hey, I'm doing 2 markets today." Or like the full weekend, because this is how you pay your bills. And so I want, and at the same time though, I think what's one of the some of the things that I appreciate or that I enjoy is one, you get a lot of feedback from your customers. So based on what your customers say, you then kind of be like, "Oh, I've never heard of this. I've never thought of this. Let me make it for you, or let me add more products to it." Because like from where you started when it was Flying Goat to goat, to goats skincare to now goat solution skincare, you have such an array of products. I want you to tell people a little bit about some of the things that you offer, that people, some of the products that are available now, and then also what what was the big difference, because now it's almost kind of like you in a weird kind of way, you got like a second chance to or I guess a third chance to restart your business. What is it that you kind of learned that you're like, I'm going to do this maybe a little bit differently, maybe whether it's packaging or something like that? What are some of the things that this time around you're like, I'm going to add these things, because now it's my baby and it's something new that I get to do.
So one of the things were, the first recipe for the soaps, everyone loved, but I felt like they were still missing something. So this was so the original company was taken away in April, and my baby, mine, relaunched in October. So it took, what is that? April, May, June, July, August, September, October. It took 6 months to basically rebuild it just to have a few. And even when I first relaunched it, I had just soaps. I don't know if you remember the first
Yeah.
relaunch of my baby. I just had soaps because that's all I could afford to invest in. And I just started off with like the original ones. But I will say I changed my recipe, and I changed my recipe to add African shea butter in almost every single soap. And I will say this, one of the reasons why I did not add it into the original recipe was because my ex-husband said that the cost was too high and it brought our profit down. And yes, I need to make a living and I need to feed the kids and put the roof over my head. But at the same time, too, the whole mission behind why I started doing this was because I was trying to cure my son's eczema. And the African shea butter is a huge game changer. You like you and Kristen, whenever, so guys, Kristen and Anthony are like my guinea pigs. We do not test our products on animals. We do test them on
You test My whole family uses it, but then again, my whole family's obsessed with it, so it's perfectly fine if whenever she wants us to try something, we're like, "Oh, okay, yeah, sure, we'll do it."
But you guys are like, there's a handful of like OG customers who have been there since day one. But like, as far like off the top of my head, you guys have the original recipe and the new recipe.
Mhm.
And so, because I do get customer feedback, I was like, okay, if customers don't like this, I'll go back to the old recipe. There wasn't a single person, like, immediately people saw the difference with the hydration. So, for those of you like who aren't familiar with Goat Solutions skincare,
Yes,
it's
please.
it's the whole line except for my hair and body oils is made from 100% raw farm fresh goat milk. And there's different soapers out there, how they do their recipes and stuff. I am a person who, if you I don't like water in any of my skincare. Water is really bad for your skin, guys, especially if it's not like filtered properly. And when it is in skincare, all it's going to do is dry your skin out. So I never discount any of my products with like 50% goat milk and 50% water. Most of like the goat milk soapers out there, it's really only like 10-15% goat milk and the rest is water. It's 100% raw goat milk in my goat milk soaps, the body butters, the lotions. Oh God, what else do I make now, Anthony? The
Shampoo, you do shampoo bars.
I
You
armpit detox now,
Mhm.
my sugar scrubs, and the thing that, that my sugar, there's so many people out there who sell sugar scrubs and they're great sugar scrubs. But one of the things that I personally love about my sugar scrubs is I had a college girl come into my booth and buy a sugar scrub. And she was talking to her friend and she was like, I wish I could use sugar scrubs every single day, or like instead of my soap, use my sugar scrub. And I looked at her and I was like, come back to me in a month. And I went back to my lab and I started formulating a sugar scrub that was gentle enough where you can use, if you wanted to use it every day, you could use it every day. But my sugar scrubs contain a half a bar of a 10-ounce goat milk soap in it. So they have 5 ounces of soap in the sugar scrub. So when you're not just exfoliating, you can actually use this in place of your bar soap. So
Yeah.
I never had that before in the old company. I didn't have body butters. I did not have sugar scrubs. Like I started to dabble in them. But with Goat Solution being my baby, I was able to basically take it and run with it. And when you are God, I hate to like use this word, but when you're with someone who is a narcissist, everything has to revolve around that person. And that's including like even if you get like customers who give you feedback, if it's not what that person wants to hear, that feedback doesn't matter. Like you can put as many suggestions in that suggestions box, but that box is never going to be opened. And if it does get
Yeah.
opened, it's going to be thrown out. So one of the things that I love the most is that this, because it's me, myself, and I open that box at every single market. And I actually ask people before they leave, like, hey, if there's not a scent here you don't see that you want, let me know. I can make it. And I last year, 2024, 15, I looked it up before our interview. 15 of my soaps came, my top selling soaps throughout the year came from my customers. And I do this thing where if you're a customer and you give me an idea for a soap and I end up making it, you get the first 2 bars for free. Like these are for you. Thank you for giving me the idea. And
Yeah.
so that's really a big thing. I think one of the biggest things is that I'm able to just do whatever. But take my customer, I call them my goat family. Like I get to bring
Yeah.
goat family. Like this is my company, yes, but also I feel like I've built a company where people can easily DM me and be like, "Hey, I had this idea." So it's kind of like ours. Like I don't know if
Hmm. Yeah.
I
No, it makes total sense.
yeah.
And I think that people and there's a reason for the fact that you have so many repeat customers and people that constantly use your product. Because of the quality, because of all the different things like I know with obviously the balances, like the skin pH, I've read like stuff like that, like the anti-aging properties, which obviously I'm all about. The dryness and the deep hydration, I will like your skin is like ridiculously smooth when it comes to it. And one of the things that I've just and the fact that you and like one of the things, if you follow Stephanie when you're watching this, like the great thing, one of the things that I really do appreciate is like just like as she's being honest in this podcast, she's very honest when it comes to like her on her stories and stuff like that. So you kind of get to see, kind of like she finishes a market, she sells out of half these things. Well, guess what? Now she's going home and she's now making more bars because she's got another market and it's like 1 or 2 in the morning and she's trying to make more bars to get ready for her next event because she wants to make sure she has enough product for you. Those are the things that I think people appreciate or gravitate towards, and then they also obviously why they keep repeating because you have a quality product that you're constantly providing. um I'm kind of curious because you mentioned it took 6 months to start the Goat Solution skincare. During those 6 months, were you just creating like were you still just creating like the basic bars like during those 6 months, even though you were waiting for like a website? And then like what happened to like and then decided to start doing markets, or did you wait till you had everything and then like after the 6 months and then went to market? I can't remember that, and I'm kind of curious how you kind of did it, because I felt like you kind of you're like, hey, I need to make product to make money to then make more product.
Yeah. So that was, and honestly, that's one of the reasons too why I have to run home and like my night markets end. I'm home by 11:30 and I'm making product again. Is because I still am not where I was with how many molds I had. So I'm still making this at a smaller quantity. Where before in one batch I could pump out like 1,000 bars of soap in one batch, and now I'm probably so right now I can make like 60 in one batch. So I'm making literally twice a day. I'm making soap, just soap, 60 to keep up with
Yeah.
supply and demand and wholesales and stuff. But in those 6 months, it was more of a personal fight, I'll be honest. So when I called Jake, my marketing manager and my my web developer, and I said I'm going to do this again, he literally had a website ready to go the next day. I didn't even have a name yet, and he had the website ready to go. And I had to, so I took the money that I had in my savings account and I basically just bought the base. I bought my oils, the essential oils, um, the goats now. I relocated goats. Luckily, being in the farm industry for so long, I was able to move goats and get more goats and put them on one of my best friend's farm. And that's like a huge difference too, not having like every morning waking up to the goats, but I still have the goats. They're just on the best friend's farm now and
Yeah.
still getting the farm fresh goat milk. Um, but there was one point, and then so just to give like ladies and I'm gentlemen, if you're listening to this, I'm speaking on the ladies' behalf because I am a lady. So, but this goes for everyone, not even ladies. Like if you are going through a divorce, like it's hard. It's hard. But now you are going through a nasty divorce. Your kids are involved. You're now trying to rebuild a business. And then on top of it, my daughter had to we had to leave for the summer in New York because my daughter had to do brain treatment. So in the middle of rehoming our whole life, building this, I now had to up and leave and go to New York for brain treatment for my daughter for the entire summer. So within doing that, I also packed up whatever I did buy for goats and I took it with me to New York because now I'm having to make soaps in New York to bring them back to Florida to get ready to sell them. And before that happened, I have, if you follow me at all, I think you may have stumbled across some reels that I have where my dad builds all of my market stuff for me. Like, so if you ever catch me at markets, my entire display is built by my daddy. And so it was about 3 days after I had told him what had happened. And I told my mom and dad I was going to open up my own company. I went to go pick my daughter up from school and take her to a doctor's appointment. And I left the house and I came back home like 4 or 5 hours later. And my dad has a 3-car garage. And the third section of the garage, when I got back to their house, was completely emptied. He had set up tables and he had bought me crock pots and anything else he thought I needed. And I was like, he goes, "Here, this is for you." And I said, "What is this?" And he goes, "This is your new goat kitchen." And my dad had literally built me in one day an entire new workshop. And so there was that. And with that, I was able, because now I'm like, where am I going to make this? Because, I hot process my soaps, which if you're not familiar with soaping, that's cooking your soap. So you have like chemical reactions that are happening and there's smoke, and then when you add essential oils it sometimes creates a fog, and like I can't do this inside in my kitchen. Like this is I can't do that. And now I'm living with my parents. Listen, my mom is one of these crazy Puerto Ricans where like you can eat off her floor. There was no way I was turning her kitchen, this Puerto Rican woman's kitchen, into a Goat Solutions soap kitchen. Okay. So within that 6 months, it was basically rebuilding a workshop. I couldn't do anything with the website that Jake built me because I had no products to put on it. So in New York, it's great because they have it, like in upstate and in Jersey, there are so many farms. So I actually have videos on Instagram showing my daughter Brielle and I running through lavender fields because I went and directly sourced all my herbs I could directly from farms while I was in New York. And then, so this is, Anthony, I don't even know if you know this. While I'm in New York, one of my friends sends me a screenshot and it is Flying Goat Soap's website had been relaunched, and it wasn't.
I think I did see something like that, and it was like they were trying to recreate or trying to get trying to repurpose or redo it and try to go that route. And then when that happened, like, because obviously were like the socials, did you have like Goat Solution skincare, like the socials and everything? Was that like you started off from zero, or did you just change? Were you able to change over and get those Instagrams handles and stuff like that, and like change them over to the new name?
So the only thing he never had, because he wasn't like social media savvy, was the social medias. So I was able to keep all the social medias. I changed passwords on it and everything, and I was able to keep those. So basically, my Goat Solution page that I have now is my old. So which was nice because I still had, my old customers on that
Yeah,
Instagram. But I remember clicking on the link and seeing Flying Goat Soap relaunch and seeing my face on the About Me section, which I was like flabbergasted, because not only did you steal this from me, I guess not steal it because it wasn't mine legally,
yeah,
but now you're still using my face to sell this all the product that I made, and I have nothing to do with
yeah,
this. So at this point, I had to take to social media because, people who still had the old Flying Goat, and that was the other thing. Everyone on that page who had the old link to the website, it was redirecting everyone to the new website. That was not mine. So basically everything that he took, and the kicker here is that nothing was labeled. So how are you selling my stuff not knowing what is in it,
yeah,
what scents they are? So this is when I finally had to take to social media, and I didn't air out, like, this is the first time, other than like probably a handful of people will know exactly why I had to do what I had to do, like in this in depth. But I had to finally go and be like, I had a divorce. This is not me. I am not affiliated with this. And because it was my original photos, I was able to actually contact GoDaddy and say these pictures are illegally on this website. And they made them take the pictures off. Like, basically, it was a cease and desist. And so I remember that was the moment where I actually sat down in the kitchen that I was in New York at the place I was staying, and I had my next mental breakdown. And I remember saying, I'm not doing this. My exact words were, excuse my French, I'm not doing this shit no more. This is not worth it. Like, if I have to fight, I just wanted peace in my life.
yeah,
And if I have to fight this man every single step of the way, it's not worth it for me to do this. So there was literally a month while I was in New York, I stopped all production. I didn't do anything. I told Jake, I said, get rid of the website. I'm not doing this. I will buy goat milk soap. Like, I'm not doing this. And then I received an email. One of my old customers from years ago, she used to buy in bulk. And when I mean in bulk, she used to buy like 100 to 200 bars of soap at a time so she wouldn't run out.
wow,
And her review is still on my Facebook page. She wrote a massive review. Her son could not go into the sun. His eczema was so bad, it would instantly burn his skin. He was no longer to go out, no longer allowed to play in PE. His skin was so bad. And she had ran out of soap about 2 months, and she was frantically looking for me, but everything had been shut down. So she couldn't find me on Instagram. She couldn't find me online. This woman, like, the FBI should freaking hire her. She's still a customer to this day. I'm sure she will listen to this. She knows. And she is actually in Brooklyn. And she found me. And I remember reading this email and once again crying, because I had decided to rebuild this company out of pure hatred. And I'll be totally honest. I was rebuilding this to prove my ex wrong, to shove it in his face, to be like, I don't need you. And I damn sure don't. Like, I can build this business and it's going to be better than ever. I no longer was doing this business for the reasons why I started it. And that email kind of, I take like, it was a sign that slapped me where I needed to be slapped. And I had this mom who was in the same situation I was in, who was begging me for soap. And it was crazy that I was in New York at the time, because I was able to actually get to her in person, get a hug from her, and deliver the soap that I had made while I was in New York. And it was in that moment that I was like, okay, we're doing this. I am doing this. The reason why I did this was because my soap makes a difference. Like I'm helping people, and this is what I originally wanted. So, it's crazy how along the way you get these little, you don't think you need them, but you get these things where you're like, okay, I see it. Thank you. Like this is what I needed. And then from there it was August and September and October I launched. And I had been gone for so long that I really didn't think, like, I knew I had friends and family that were of course gonna order to be sweet, but Anthony, I launched and my very first day of sales was $5,000 within 4 hours. I never expected that in a million years. In
Yeah.
a million years. And so, and it wasn't just people who had ordered before. This is like word of mouth. Like people and within the first week I had done better in that first closing week than I had done in the last 3 months of the company that was taken away.
Wow.
Yeah.
Originally, I always like to ask this question, but I figure you're going to give me a different answer, and this is the reason why I'm asking it. So, and I'm not going to make you repeat what you originally said because you probably don't remember. But originally, when I asked you my typical question of like, what advice would you give for someone starting something, you said just do it, and then you also said, what do you have to lose? If you don't try it, you'll never know. It started as a side hustle, kind of, and it could blow up. Knowing what you know now, what advice would you give yourself or for someone wanting to start something?
Oh God. Okay. So I actually wrote this down because this was Anthony gave me a heads up on this question. And I'm glad he did because this was like this coming back podcast honestly made me had to sit down and like really touch on things that I kind of just like like you suppress certain like feelings and emotions.
Yeah.
And so I wrote this down, and my original advice still holds true. If you have a dream or an idea, you should absolutely go for it. But what I have learned over the past 2 years is that you also need to definitely protect what you build. And just so, like, my advice now, and when I give advice, like, I have a lot of women who come to me and, they see the whole single mom kids business and they do ask for advice. And this is not to be bitter at all. And this is something that I learned, and I will never, ever, ever, ever again put myself in a situation where I'm basically caught, like, what did they say, with your pants down, like not knowing anything. Because when this was taken away, I had no idea how to get an LLC. I had no idea how to file. I had no idea how to get a business license. I didn't know any of this. And I was already in business for what, 8 years when this occurred. So, my biggest thing is it does not matter, ladies, how great of a husband you have. Okay.
Or you could even turn around spouse wise, and how great your spouse is. We'll just go general.
There we go. Thank you, Anthony. It does not matter. You could have the greatest person in the world, okay? But tragedy does happen. Even if it's not a divorce, and
Yeah.
you can leave the house and unfortunately this person you
Yeah.
rely on is gone. You need to make sure you know how things work. You really do. Like, for the sake of your own life, if you have kids, you need to, like, for their lives. So the biggest advice that I would give is still just do it, but do it with intention and preparation. You take the time to make sure that everything is in your name. If you're building a business and it's your business, you need to make sure that everything's in your name, with your LLC, your trademarks, your website, social media accounts. I learned such a hard, horrible lesson that it's crazy to say that I'm glad I learned this lesson, because now I'm unstoppable. Like, like, not to toot my own horn, but I did this. I rebuilt
Yeah.
I from the ground up. everything. I rebuilt everything. And now when, I stand there and I look like at the end of the year on my last driving home from my last market last year, I saw how many markets I did and I was like, are you out of your mind? But then
How many markets did you do?
God, what was it? It was like 234 markets I did. And even though I sat there and I was like, how did you make it out alive? I also was like, I did that. I did that. I was able to do that. It was not easy, but you need to build something that you're proud of and with integrity, you know, because especially I guess I think with everything you do, but especially the fact that people trust me with their skin, that's
Yeah.
really, I don't think I've ever said that, but at every market, I am absolutely terrified when new customers come up. And, I tell them goat milk is the closest thing to your own natural pH. It balances your skin out, it puts the moisture back in because these people don't know me and they are literally taking a risk. And I have super sensitive skin. So I'm the first person to tell you that, like, if I change my routine anyway, I break out horribly. So I know I'm not the only one out there. So the fact that people come into my booth and I have repeat customers and they trust me with their skin, that's terrifying. So, like this time around, I mean, all time, but now that this is my baby, I feel even more of a responsibility to make sure that like this is done correctly this time. Like
Yeah.
100%, there are no shortcuts made. Another piece of advice of like something that I've learned, it's it's super important is to expect challenges and setbacks. If you are looking to build any type of business, even if it's a side hustle, if you are not ready to have it completely taken from you, don't do it. Don't do it. There is a different level of mentality that you need to survive this out here, especially in our economy. There are going to be some really bad days, especially if you do markets, especially with our weather. And if you cannot handle, you need to dig really deep and make sure you can handle the absolute mind effery. Is that a good abbreviation for that word so I don't drop that word on your podcast?
I like that. Mind effery.
The mind effery that is going to happen. Um yeah, don't let the fear of the setbacks hold you back. I don't know if I just like canceled out one thing that I said, but
No, no, no. I
you
like that. That
yeah.
that hits. That hits.
The one last thing is like, here's the thing, okay? So I wrote this part down. Take the leap, but do it with your eyes wide open. Build with passion, but protect your hard work. And know that even if things fall apart, that the things that fell apart are physical, and it's if you built it once, you can build it again even better.
And I think that's one of the reasons, like, why I wanted to have you on, and I probably should have had you on sooner to talk about this. But I wanted to I'm getting closer to episode 150 on it, and I wanted something milestone. So I thought you would be a great milestone for that. To be the guest that kind of I hits as 150 because I wanted something special. And I think that what you've created is something very special. And obviously I will safely say, like, I lunch the lunch with Biggie podcast, Deli Fresh Dreads, anything you want to call it. My entire family uses this soap. I've literally have gone to the point where you may even see on her reels a video of me, because I don't know why, like, she is such a cheerleader for me and I am such a cheerleader for her, that I literally made a video in a shower on a cruise ship. And even though my wife thought I was nuts, because I needed to tell her, I was like, we love this soap so damn much. We bring this, we literally put a baggie and bring it in with us on our trips. I don't use any other soap. No soap hits my body other than Goat Solution skincare. It's like, that if that doesn't give you some idea of what I think of the product and what she's creating and what she does, I don't know what other commercial I can give you, or reason, besides the fact of like what she does and how she does it and the hustle and like those are the things that I admire most about Stephanie, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have her on, because I felt like she needed a redo on being able to share her story, and then not to mention the fact of the lessons learned. And I think that's really the big ones for me, is the fact that, like, you have to have a passion and a love for this to be able to do 235 events, because it is a mind effery when you do an event, especially since she does it. And sometimes I scratch my head and going, why the hell are you doing a market in the summer in the pouring rain? You know what's going to happen, but she does it.
I listen. If you've been to TBD Night Market, you know that is like I am there. There, I love my TBD Night Market family. I love Lake Eola. But this summer coming up, there's going to be a month where I'm going missing because summer whooped my butt. Like, but I will tell you this. So this is like more or less, local, but if you're listening from not local and
Yeah.
you're don't come at me when I say this, like we are conditioned, Floridians are conditioned for the heat and the rain and hurricanes. And like I can't believe I'm about to say this, Anthony,
I'm
but
going to cringe. I'm going to close
I,
my eyes.
I would rather do a Florida summer vendor event than deal with the January we just had.
That's true. We suck at the cold, so I definitely can see that. It is not fun at all. I don't know what's worse, but you having heat exhaustion and throwing up after a market, or maybe freezing your ass off. I don't know what's worse.
You know what it is? Okay, so here's the difference. Here's the difference. And this basically comes down to money. Okay, guys? Floridians will come out in the heat and the rain. We don't care about we will come out in our rain boots and we will do it. But we do not come out when it's cold. So I'm out there
Yeah.
in 30 degrees freezing my butt out by myself. Like Floridians, where are you guys when it's cold? Come on, layer up. Come support local.
I'm underneath my blanket. Nope.
Yes.
Where where can people shop, and where can they buy your products? Give them the website. It's going to be obviously on all the information, and we'll tag you on everything, but in case they're listening and they want to, like, okay, what it is. And then obviously I've said Goat Solution Skincare, but what's the social for them to be able to find you, and the web page for them to be able to shop?
So we'll start with Instagram. I am guys, I'm horrible at Facebook. I really am. So whatever goes on Facebook comes off of Instagram. But the best way to contact me is through Instagram or email from the website. So on Instagram, it's at Goat Solution. And I also do monthly giveaways. Every month I do a giveaway on there. I ship it to whoever wins, or if you're a local, I drop it off to you, or you can pick it up at one of the markets. Also too, I always do like behind the scenes on Instagram. I try not to make it just businessy. I try to kind of take you guys when I remember. Biggie and I have this conversation all the time. Like I'm so bad at making content. I'm trying to get that's this year's goal is to make better behind the scenes content. The website, so you can shop 24/7. I have my own website. It's goatsolution.com. Oh my God, is that my website, Biggie? Yeah. I had to double check that. I'm like, wait a minute.
That's hilarious.
Yes, go
Yes, it is.
so
It is goatsolution.com.
I can't handle the cold. The cold has like frozen my brain. But yes, it's goatsolution.com. And everyone from Biggie's podcast is going, so I'm going to send Biggie a coupon that everyone gets 15%,
Oh,
15, not 10, 15% off of their order. Yeah, and so like if you're not familiar with the goat milk, like I said, so the raw goat milk is the closest thing to your own natural pH. I only use organic coconut oils, extra virgin olive oils. If you have coconut oil allergies, like a lot of psoriasis customers do, I have an entire just extra virgin olive oil and raw goat milk line. I have tons of unscented because eczema, sensitive skin, that's my passion. And then anything that does have a scent, it's organic essential oils. The essential oils I can get directly from like the lavender farms and things like that. It's all farm fresh. And any colors that you see on the website or at my markets, they're herbs, clays, minerals, spices, botanicals that have been soaking in the oils for 6 to 8 weeks. So It's very organic, it's very crunchy, holistic. You know, my passion is I want to say kids, you know, with parents who are struggling with kids with eczema, but honestly, in the last 2 years, the rise in eczema in adults who've never had it before is insane. And I know it's also it's all the chemicals in the food now, and our weather is just added to it. So you know, just helping people alleviate their skin issues is my passion. So yeah.
I love it. I love it. Stephanie, thank you so much for coming on again. And
Thank you. You know, if you're new to Biggie's podcast and this is the first time you're seeing it and you haven't seen how much the two of us cheerlead for each other through this entire process, so you know, the divorce was horrible. There's still moments where it is horrible. Anthony and Kristen were literally a bright light when, and I don't know what it is. I don't know if you have like this radar, but there would be some mornings where it was so hard to roll out of bed and my phone would go off and it would be like 7:30 in the morning. And I'm like, who the hell is texting me at 7:30 in the morning? And I would pick my phone up and it'll be Anthony with a video. And the video would be simply, hey, good morning. I just wanted to remind you you're a badass. Now go out and have a badass day. And like, I would sit there and be like, I am a badass. Thank you, Anthony. And I would get up and I would do what I would have to do. But like, the people who know that I love them know this. But in case I have not said it to you lately, you got me out of some really dark times when you just randomly would text me, and you and Kristen just checking up on me, making sure I'm okay. And I just want to say thank you so much. And like, you just don't help me the way you outreach for your community and us leaders. You are absolutely amazing. So I just wanted to say thank you and put you on the spot on your own podcast.
I appreciate it, and hopefully in 2025 therapy sessions I will get better at taking these wonderful compliments. But I do appreciate it, and no, I don't know. I just think I look at it as I want everyone to succeed. And when I see people doing things the way that you're doing it and others, I just feel like they, we, and especially as a small business, a lot of times, and that's the reason why a lot of times I can definitely talk long and hard about this, is the fact that um, you just need to take a moment and just give thanks or tell appreciation to someone. And I don't think we do it enough. And I try to practice what I preach, which is I try to tell others, hey, you got this. And I love I love what you're doing. And like I said that, and I absolutely love your hustle and the fact of like all the different small businesses. And that's the reason why I do this podcast. And this is one of the many reasons. Like I want people to know these stories and understand these people, because it's not, you're not just buying something off the shelf. You're actually meeting these people. You're supporting these businesses. And I think that's kind of one of the biggest thing of all that I love about this. So with that said, that's our show. Thank you so much to Stefanie Bush of Goat Solution Skincare for being on and having lunch with me during a lunch break. Make sure to check them out online. Make sure to check, because probably show notes will probably have a discount code that'll be available, or if not, we'll figure it out. But just follow it on social. I'll probably have Stephanie posted on her social as well as mine when the episode drops. If you enjoyed the show, make sure to subscribe. Make sure to check out other episodes. Maybe there's other people you want me to bring back and talk to, because the things have changed. It's amazing seeing the origin stories of these wonderful guests. If you want to support my brand, check out Deli Fresh Threads, and obviously tell your friends. Thank you. Until next time, keep eating sandwiches and follow your passion. Thanks, everyone.